Welcome to our video. We're going to show you how one Envision environment can support many business applications. We will also show you how different methodologies, in separate business disciplines, can work together. Envision acts as a host to a portfolio of business transformation solutions, or business apps if you will. The point is, these user-friendly apps sit in one repository. I am sure you have seen this type of organization chart before. It just shows that organizations consist of many disciplines. This means that sitting up in the C-suite, there is a team with shared goals and values, but very different perspectives. The temptation is for each team to buy their own apps supporting their preferred methodology, and to use their own individual vocabulary. An Envision environment can support all these apps. A single business app repository adds significant value to the organization. It delivers consistency and integrity across all business disciplines. For a start, it saves all the effort of ensuring that names, data, and connections are consistent across all models, reports, and spreadsheets. It provides, almost by default, a dashboard that can be trusted. Imagine business intelligence, BI to its friends, out of the box. Generally, our customers use Envision first to solve a particular business problem. Then they extend the use of Envision into other areas. Our largest customer has probably avoided buying and managing dozens of single-purpose apps over the last decade. All departments now share a common repository, which is easy for the IT group to manage. They refer to it as their single source of truth. How valuable is that? We have talked about people using Envision to support multiple end-user requirements, such as business capability management and resource management. Now, let's look at running multiple methodologies. Almost all Envision customers get significant value by achieving this. There are a number of enterprise architecture frameworks in widespread use today. Perhaps most commonly deployed frameworks in the US are the Open Group Architecture, the Federal Enterprise Architecture, the Zachman Framework, the Department of Defense Architecture, and the Treasury Enterprise Architecture. Enterprise architecture is typically modeled with 4 domains. Business architecture defines the business strategy, governance, organization, and business processes. Data architecture describes the structure of an organization's data assets and data management resources. Applications architecture provides the plan for the individual systems that are deployed, the interactions between these systems, and their relationships to business processes. Technology architecture describes the hardware, software, and network infrastructure needed to support the deployment of user applications. Early adopters of the enterprise architecture methodology were driven by the need to align technology with the business needs of the organization. The method has matured, and now teams are using it to align every activity in the enterprise with value creation. This is why Envision is so useful. Envision users can model the enterprise and its environment holistically. In Envision, you can model every architecture in every department using one set of business objects. And you can link them using the intelligent connectors. Business processes are linked to end-user applications, which sit on IT environments that are connected by internal networks and the internet. You could say that Envision becomes your digital twin. A digital twin is an exciting concept, promoted to popularity by the Internet of Things. It is a virtual representation of an asset, which could be a physical product, or a process, or a team. And it models the performance of that asset or process in the real world. Envision enables you to represent your entire enterprise architecture digitally, in one place. This makes crucial information readily available. This inspires improved decision-making at the top level. The Open Group Architecture Framework TOGAF is a widely deployed framework for enterprise architecture. It is doubtless the de facto standard in an EA practice. Its image of 8 yellow circles surrounding a central requirements circle is probably the most used diagram in enterprise architecture. The framework is constructed around 3 pillars. First, enterprise architecture domain. These are the 4 architectures we described earlier: business, applications, data, and technical. Second, the architecture development model. It describes the TOGAF methodology for architecture development and users. Of course, Envision has proved to be an ideal environment for this model, because it enables all members of the team to access the relevant reusable building blocks. And third, The enterprise continuum. This is one of the most valuable functions of Envision. The TOGAF enterprise continuum is the business object repository of all the relevant architecture assets, such as models, patterns, architectural descriptions, and other artifacts. The Envision repository enables the reuse of objects and provides a consistent vocabulary. For almost 40 years, enterprise architecture has been a logical blueprint that explains the controls and construction of an organization. One method of specifying or describing what can be quite complex is the Zachman framework for enterprise architecture, which uses a two-dimensional classification matrix. One dimension of the Zachman matrix consists of 6 interrogatives: what, how, where, who, when, and why. The other dimension is based on 6 stakeholder groups, such as visionary, owner, designer, builder, implementer, and worker. The classification matrix provides a holistic view of the enterprise architecture of an organization. The Zachman framework has been loaded into Envision, as well as providing an ideal visualization of the framework, which substantially helps the communication of ideas throughout the team. Envision expedites the production of the large quantities of specification documentation associated with this method. The top layer of the framework appears as a grid in Envision. Underneath each box, there are a number of subviews that provide the detailed information. The depth and detail in the subviews really depend on the topic. In this deployment sector of the framework, Envision is used for data analysis. This same model is documenting the data design. Other areas are monitoring project progress, whilst yet another is managing the functional organization chart. The beauty of the Zachman framework is that it is all-inclusive. Every physical and non-physical component of an enterprise can be categorized within the framework. Nothing is missing, and finding anything within the framework is made straightforward by the framework's categorization. The Federal Enterprise Architecture Framework was established in 1999, in response to the Clinger-Cohen Act of 1996. The purpose of the framework is to facilitate shared development of common processes and information among federal and other government agencies. Based on the framework, a given architecture can be partitioned into business, data, applications, and technology architectures. Business architecture describes what is done, by whom, how, when, and why. Data architecture manages information used by the agency to do business. Application architecture depicts the computer applications that process the data, according to defined business rules. Finally, technology architecture defines the IT software and hardware that supports all the other layers. The goal of this enterprise architecture framework is to simplify the interoperability across the federal government. Key to its success is each agency using the same vocabulary as defined in the reference models. Incidentally, this is the same critical success factor the Envision users have enjoyed for decades. Using common objects in a single Envision repository, the 4 architectures interrelate with 5 reference models. These reference models provide groupings for the strategic, business, and technology models. Using a common repository supports analysis and reporting across departments and agencies. It certainly should help identify opportunities for sharing and reuse of services and applications across agencies. However, its value really does depend on interagency cooperation at all levels. The Business Process Modeling Notation, BPMN, is a graphical notation that depicts the steps in a business process. The notation has been designed to coordinate the sequence of processes and the messages that flow between different process participants in a related set of activities. Envision users were early adopters of BPMN. The Envision template supports all the BPMN objects, and there are over 100 of them. Envision also enables users to draw all types of BPMN diagrams. But, more importantly, users can link BPMN diagrams to other disciplines across the organization. This is a classic example of a BPMN diagram. It takes a customer all the way from the moment he desires a pizza, through to the point where his hunger is satisfied. The diagram includes tasks, subtasks, decisions, and messages. It also shows how swim lanes are used. Each object has a user-defined properties form, so the diagrams can deliver a great deal of information about each task or connection. Envision business process diagrams can have a number of layers, and this provides new and wider perspectives on the process. These layers help users to cope with complexity, using the visualizations to communicate clearly at all levels. In this example, there is a change layer that provides a visualization of where changes will occur. There is also a systems layer, which links activities to the applications or systems on which they depend. In this example, we have created a layer with links to our safety and compliance team's effort to deal with the firm's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. This illustrates that Envision can be used to manage the rapid change management that firms need to respond to opportunities and threats. Each object on the diagram can be linked to data using a spec sheet or properties form. These forms support any type of field. This overcomplicated example shows that these forms can support as much complex process data as you can imagine. There can also be report templates linked to the diagram that auto-generate audit reports, functional specs, and spreadsheets. The basic components of any business process are inputs, guides, outputs, and enablers, and these are the basis for a popular methodology called I.O. The technique was originally called IDEF, short for Integrated Definition, developed by the U.S. Department of Defense for the purpose of capturing process information related to building fighter planes. I.O. has been implemented by a number of consultants using Envision. It now can be used by service industries as well as by manufacturing. The methodology components can be depicted like this. Input, something that is transformed or consumed. Guide, anything that describes the when, why, or how a process or activity occurs. Output, the product or result of the change that occurs to inputs or the result of the creation of something based on the guide. Enabler, the resources or assets required to transform an input into an output. The I.O. diagrams, easily created in Envision, help analysts understand processes better, and helps them analyze processes for opportunities more easily and effectively. The power of these diagrams comes from making improvements to processes that many organizations miss. Analysts rave about I.O. diagrams in Envision because they are so helpful in revealing payoffs in their process improvement projects. Envision users apply business capability diagrams as part of their enterprise models. These diagrams link to strategy planning, resource and systems management, as well as process maps, through the centralized repository. Essentially, business capability maps describe everything that an organization can do. The models are comparatively static, and they are largely independent of specific organizational structures, political agendas, and cultural aspects of individual groups. They provide a useful cross-silo perspective. Envision business capability models can be color-coded to distinguish core capabilities from non-core ones, and thereby identify the opportunities for outsourcing. While core capabilities are cultivated, non-core capabilities can be considered as candidates for outsourcing with minimal business risk. Users can link data from all other disciplines to a capability. This is usually done through the spec sheet, or properties form. Subviews are used to model enhancements, and visualize those capabilities that should become the primary focus of future investment. Completely new business capabilities that need to be developed from scratch can easily be added, while some existing capabilities that lost their importance may be removed as irrelevant. Having business capability maps in the same repository as all other enterprise architecture models provides a shared vocabulary and organization-wide reference points to all stakeholders involved in decision-making processes. After all, a good business process such as customer support requires a number of capabilities as well as inputs, outputs, guides, and enablers. FORTIG is a powerful asset management environment built in Envision. It helps firms leverage ISO 55000 to improve asset performance. An asset is defined as anything that creates value for an organization for which that firm has a legal responsibility. Classic examples include ships, pipelines, bridges, and machines. But it is not just limited to physical structures, it can apply to conceptual assets, such as capabilities. FORTIG provides a structured approach for the development, coordination, and control of asset-related activities across their entire lifecycle. FORTIG supports execs with their management of the value and risk to internal and external stakeholders. Advantage of the Envision Business Object Repository to take an enterprise architectural approach to managing mission-critical assets. Asset facets are all linked. This provides current and information-rich dashboard information for executives and for engineers responsible for each asset class. VUCA was created in 1987 at the U.S. War College to describe the more volatile political and military conditions resulting from the end of the Cold War. This method helps management with the rapidly changing environment in the 21st century. The methodology is included in many management school syllabuses, including those at Cornell and Harvard Business School. The volatility aspect studies the nature and speed of change, while uncertainty tries to gauge the impacts caused by the unpredictability of surprises. Complexity explores the multiplicity of forces and confusion that surrounds an organization, while ambiguity measures the potential for misunderstanding the impact of events. Envision can be used to model a situation, using a separate diagram for each facet. This helps manage complexity. The fact that you can draw new Envision diagrams very quickly helps users to visualize the current state and refine diagrams rapidly as more information becomes known. The diagrams can feed into executive dashboards, which are updated automatically, and assist management teams deal with volatility. Envision is a business object repository that can be used in any number of executive apps. Objects can relate across all disciplines within the organization. And Envision can link to live transaction data. Consequently, when used extensively, Envision naturally collects all the data that makes it very useful for creating dashboards, and for statutory reporting. Envision includes a useful report generator that allows users to extract data, and produce many types of reports. One of our larger customers has told us that by using Envision, they have cut the time taken to create, review, and submit their SOC quarterly report by a factor of 5, and reduce the man-hours by a factor of 10. Kerching! So, as you can see, Envision is an environment that supports many disciplines, and many methodologies. Envision can replace all those annoying little departmental apps, that creep in because they seem so cheap, but end up segregating cliques into silos. Envision is used across the whole spectrum of an organization, from the C.F.O and C.I.O across to the part-time call center agent. When widely deployed, an Envision business object repository delivers consistency and integrity across all business disciplines. Envision users normally start by jumping on the BPMN, or resource management car of the Envision Ferris wheel. From there, it is easy to create a portfolio of business transformation solutions that enhances the way teams work. It increases the effectiveness of your organization in managing internal and external stakeholders. It inspires your team to leverage your tangible and intangible assets. An Envision business object repository manages multiple executive tools from the one box that naturally develops into that single source of truth for your management team.
Thanks for watching.